She said marrying me would be a mistake she'd regret forever. So I left her, and now she watches me live the life she wanted. I am a man of 32. I heard the sentence on a Sunday, 2 hours before we were supposed to meet a venue manager who had already sent us the contract. She looked at the brochure and said that marrying me would be a mistake she would regret forever. She added that I was a safe choice, but safe choices trap people who were meant for more. I stood there with the deposit receipt in my pocket and understood that nothing I said would move the needle 1 millimeter. I put the paper back, nodded once, and told her I would not ask twice for a future that did not want me. It had not started with that one cut. It started months earlier with smaller ones that didn't bleed right away. Emma began talking about timelines like a coach. She said that we needed to accelerate, that other couples already had mortgages and promotions, that we were falling behind a race nobody had invited us to. I said that progress takes time if you want it to last. She said that time is the excuse people use when they are afraid. I wanted to argue, but the truth is I was afraid of making the wrong move, afraid of building on sand. I thought caution was love. She thought speed was. I worked as a junior product analyst in a small firm that rented an office above a bakery. I liked the smell of bread and the way the bakers started before the sun. It made me feel less alone when I arrived early to clean messy spreadsheets from people who always forgot to lock columns. I had a plan to become lead analyst within a year and a half. I kept my head down, learned quietly, and sent ideas only when I could defend them. Emma said that quiet plans are invisible and invisible men rarely get picked. She wanted a partner who could bend the world, not negotiate with it. We got engaged in a simple way. I asked with a ring I could afford and a letter I had rewritten 10 times. She cried and said yes. The next morning she sent photos to her group chat and said that we would make everyone jealous by how fast we would build our life. That word jealous lodged somewhere behind my ribs. It tasted like metal. I ignored it. Her mother wanted a hotel ballroom. My parents said a small garden would be enough. Emma said that a ballroom could become content that helped her brand. She had a small following she guarded like a fragile plant. She believed the right images could turn into the right doors. I said that we could do something in the middle. She said that compromise is what people say when they are poor. I laughed like it was a joke, then realized she had not meant it to be funny. The pressure turned practical. She wanted me to push for a salary review 2 quarters early. I said that my manager had already mapped my path and that jumping ahead would burn goodwill we would need later. She said that men who lead do not wait for permission. I tried to explain that relationships at work matter more than slogans. She said that slogans were how you persuade people. I watched the way her eyes measured me and felt smaller. I kept studying. I joined a certification course paid by the company if you passed. I passed. My manager congratulated me and said the next quarter would be important. I told Emma that the plan was working. She said that plans measured in quarters were too slow for the life she wanted. She said she had spoken to a friend who had introduced her to someone who could help her brand jump. She smiled while saying that this person understood her energy in a way I never had. She said he was expansive. I knew what that meant. It meant I was the small room she was outgrowing. I felt the first real crack. She started spending evenings at events. She said that networking after dark was different, more electric, more honest. I told myself not to begrudge someone a stage if that was where they felt alive. I went to bed early so I could wake with the bakers and the spreadsheets. We began moving past each other like runners on different tracks who pretend they are in the same race. In the weeks leading up to the venue visit, her sentences shifted from "we will" to "I must." She said that she could not attach herself to a life defined by caution. She said that if she tied herself to me now, she would only resent me later. She said that it would be kinder to stop before the vows than after. I listened and learned a new kind of quiet. The kind you sit inside when your body wants to throw furniture. On that Sunday, she said the sentence that finished the thought she had been shaping. She said that marrying me would be a mistake she would regret forever. She said that she still cared for me and did not want to hurt me, but she could not live inside my speed. I thanked her for telling the truth before we built something fragile and expensive. I left the deposit in my pocket and walked out into air that suddenly felt thin. I slept badly for 3 nights. I ate whatever was closest. I unfollowed her without drama and blocked only the account that posted our photos like a documentary for strangers. My parents called and offered soup. I accepted because soup is one of the few things that can hold your hand. On the 4th morning, I went to work before anyone else and answered a backlog that could have buried a man in a better mood. I noticed a pattern in our trial data that explained a failure we had blamed on the wrong factor. I wrote it up and sent it to my manager. He arrived later and asked how I had found it. I said that pain makes some people slow and makes others look harder. He smiled in a way that said he understood without needing the story. The next week, our firm lost a mid-sized client because their CEO wanted numbers without friction. My manager asked if I could salvage something by preparing a fast pilot for a problem they had not articulated. I said I could try. I built it in 4 nights and 2 Saturdays and showed it to a room full of uptight faces. They hated the first version and liked the second. They signed a 3-month experiment and said that if it held, they would come back. My manager told me later that he had argued for me to lead the pilot and that I should feel both proud and ready to be blamed if it broke. I appreciated the honesty. I started running every morning. Not for a time. For a rhythm. I stopped checking Emma's social posts. A friend said she had been seen with the expansive man who made her feel electric. I said nothing. I had learned that some details are poison dressed as information. My manager brought me into higher rooms in a quiet way. He said that calm men who speak when they have something to say are rare. He said that he wanted me to see how decisions were made before anyone taught me to imitate their tone. I took notes on everything except how to perform. I did not want to become a person who needs a stage to breathe. A month after the broken Sunday, I met Sarah. She came to our office to train us on a tool we had been misusing for years. She explained things without trying to impress us. She spoke like someone who valued clarity over cleverness. She stayed after the session to help our intern because she had remembered his name. I noticed how she stood, how she listened, how she allowed silence between sentences without rushing to fill it. I asked nothing. I simply listened and felt something in me settle that had been buzzing since the engagement came apart. We crossed paths the next week at a small cafe that sells burnt coffee and the best oatmeal cookies in the city. She said she recognized me from the training and asked how the pilot was going. I said that it was holding even with strangers trying to pull it apart. She said that good work survives friction. She did not ask about my personal life. I respected the boundary because boundaries are a kind of kindness. Over the next weeks, we bumped into each other enough times that it stopped feeling like chance. She asked how I stayed calm. I told her that I had learned to count breaths instead of enemies. She smiled in a quiet way that made me want to build something steady. We kept it simple. Tea after work. A walk on a long street. No promises, no stages, no phrasing designed for an audience. 2 months from the Sunday, the pilot passed its 3rd test. The client extended and offered us a partnership that would grow in small, measurable steps if we continued to deliver. My manager said that the result would change my path inside the firm. He said I should be ready for more eyes on my work and more hands trying to claim it. I thanked him for trusting me before anyone else noticed it was safe. That same week, Emma sent a long message. She wrote that things were not what she expected with the expansive man. She wrote that she had misjudged what safety means and that she felt foolish for equating quiet with small. She wrote that she wanted to talk. She wrote that she hoped we could pick up where we had left off. I looked at the date on my calendar. I looked at the pilot dashboard. I looked at the memory of a hotel brochure on a Sunday afternoon. Then I put down my phone and went for a run. When I returned, I replied with a sentence that took me 15 minutes to write. I said that I wished her peace. I said that I had accepted her decision. I said that I would not reopen a door that she had closed in a clean way. There was no anger in the text. Just a line. She wrote again and said that I was being stubborn, that I was using pride to punish her honesty. I stayed quiet. Silence can be armor when words would only make a mess. Sarah asked me that week how I was doing. I told her that an old room had tried to call me back and that I had chosen not to enter. She said that choosing your future is the only version of closure that holds. We took the long way to the station. We said nothing important and felt full. On Friday, my manager called me into a small room and told me that the company wanted to create a lead role that did not exist last quarter. He asked if I wanted it. He warned me that it would mean longer days, fewer excuses, and the kind of visibility that eats people who need applause. I said yes because I had already learned how to work in the dark. I called my parents and told them I would be home late. My mother asked if I was eating properly. My father asked if the new title would make me arrogant. I said that titles do not make character, they expose it. He laughed and said he would print that on a mug. That night, I sat alone in the office for 15 minutes after everyone left. I looked at the pilot graph that no longer flickered. I thought of a Sunday sentence that had once crushed my chest. I thought of a woman who had told me I was the wrong speed for her life. I thought of another woman who had listened without trying to bend me. I turned off the screen, locked the door, and walked out into a city that had not changed but felt new. I slept without waking at 3. I am a man of 33. I stood on a small stage in a small room a year later because someone needed to say thank you to the team that had carried the pilot into a full product. I said 3 sentences, short and clean. I named the intern first because he had stayed late the most. I named the operations assistant second because nobody notices the person who makes the calendars fit. I named my manager last because he hates praise in public. People clapped, then asked about plans, then returned to their laptops. Work does not stop for speeches. I was relieved. I left early because Sarah had asked if I wanted to meet her brother for the first time. She said that he was protective in a way that could be difficult if you cared too much about being liked. I said that I cared about being consistent. He asked me about debt, about schedules, about how I manage anger. I answered plainly. He said that plain answers are rare. He gave me a firm nod that felt like a stamp. We moved in together before we married because we wanted to learn the small fights early. She said that dishes are the real test of character. I said that budgets are. We learned that sleep solves most arguments. We learned that apologies without changed behavior are just pauses. We wrote simple rules and taped them inside a cupboard. We hosted nobody except family for 6 months. We let our life grow roots before we invited eyes. Emma watched from the digital distance people pretend is nothing. I saw the views on a photo of our kitchen plant spike at odd hours. I saw a new follower with no posts and a familiar pattern. I did not block it. I simply posted less about moments and more about work that might help someone. I discovered that sharing in public had always been about proving something to people who did not care. I stopped needing that. She started appearing in places I never saw her before. She came to a community talk where I explained how to build small useful tools without burning out. She stood in the back and left before questions. She walked past the bakery at 7 a.m. on mornings when I happened to be there. She liked posts from people I tagged. She left a comment once that said she admired the way I built quietly. I did not reply. I decided that silence was not rudeness, it was a boundary that protected everyone. The call came on a Tuesday. She said that she had made the worst mistake of her life and that she wanted to meet for 10 minutes to apologize. I took a breath and counted to 5. I said that I could meet in a public place for the apology, not to reopen anything. She agreed. We chose the bench near the river where runners pause to stretch, the one with the view of a bridge that always looks like it is bracing for weather. She arrived wearing the coat I once said made winter look less cruel. She looked older by a year in a way I could not name. She said that she had confused noise for progress and applause for love. She said that she had left me because fear had dressed itself like standards. She said that she had walked into a faster life and discovered that speed can be loneliness with better lighting. She asked if I had hated her. I said that I had been sad and then busy. She asked if we could try again. I told her that I was engaged now. I watched the sentence hit her like cold water. She said that she wished me happiness and that she would stop reaching. She meant it. I believed her. I married Sarah in a room with plants and vows we wrote without adjectives. We invited only people who had seen us tired. We promised things we could deliver. We held hands like a contract. We signed the paper, ate soup, and cleaned together after everyone left because work after celebration keeps you humble. After the wedding, a small local magazine wrote a piece about our product because the city likes stories about people who build in basements and move upstairs. They asked to take a photo of me at my desk. I said no and sent a photo of the team instead. They ran the story anyway. Emma's account liked it minutes after it posted. I felt nothing like triumph. I felt a quiet gratitude that the worst day of my old life had built a wall that funneled me toward better rooms. The company offered me equity tied to milestones. I accepted with a new caution. I hired slowly because people are not headcount, they are promises you must keep. I refused 2 panels because I did not want to perform wisdom I had not lived long enough to own. I learned to say no to work that paid in attention. I learned to say yes to work that paid the assistants first. Sarah and I wanted a simple home. We bought a modest apartment with more light than furniture. We painted walls on weekends and learned to fix small leaks without calling anyone. We saved a part of every raise and ignored people who told us to leverage everything. We found a rhythm where mornings were for work, evenings for walks, and nights for sleep that covered the whole sky. Emma found new work in a firm that measures everything in quarters and churns through people like firewood. Each time the firm announced a new initiative, I saw a version of the life she wanted blowing across a screen like a flag. I wished her steady ground, not just wind. The city is small when stories overlap. She accepted a short-term contract with a client our company served. She had to sit in the same room as the product we had built. She asked my manager, through the client, to schedule around me. He said that work is work and adults can share oxygen. I prepared the brief without salt. I entered the room, presented, answered, left. She sat there writing notes like rain. We did our jobs. That is a kind of grace. After the meeting, she stood near the elevators and said she was proud of me. She said that she now understood what I meant by building on rock. She said that she hoped I would forgive the old sentence. I told her that I had forgiven it the day I stopped needing to replay it to get out of bed. She nodded. The elevator opened. We did not reach for each other. The doors closed. I felt the floor move and did not lose balance. News travels in families. Her mother met my mother at a market and said that I had become the man everyone knew I would be. My mother said that she did not care how big my title became as long as I slept well and treated people kindly. They laughed in that tight way mothers laugh when politics walk into groceries. I heard the story later and smiled without adding commentary. On our first anniversary, Sarah and I took a train to a small town and left our phones in a drawer. We walked until our legs ached and ate bread that reminded me of the bakery below my old office. We sat on a bench and counted reasons to be grateful. We said the names of people who had helped us. We included the ones who had hurt us because pain can be a teacher if you don't make it your major. Sometimes at night I still think of that Sunday. I see Emma holding the brochure like a shield. I hear the sentence about regret. I do not replay it to reopen the wound. I replay it to remember how close I came to becoming a version of myself built around convincing someone to choose me. I think about the life I have now and how it grew in the quiet space that formed when I left that room without a speech. She watches from the distance we chose. She sees the life I built with a woman who prefers simple vows and clean kitchens to content. She sees the work I do without panels. She sees the plant that keeps growing in the window we never planned to buy. Maybe she regrets. Maybe she doesn't. Regret is not my business anymore. My business is this: wake early, do work that helps, speak plainly, love one person with my whole day, and keep a lungful of air for the moments that require it. I tell younger colleagues that success is not a sound. It is a posture. It is the way you stand when someone says out loud that you are not enough, and the way you walk anyway, not to prove them wrong, but to make a life that fits your own chest. They nod like this sentence is ordinary. I hope they never need to learn it the expensive way. The bakery downstairs still starts before dawn. Some mornings I arrive early to smell the ovens and think about the men and women who made me. I think about the boy I was, bending over spreadsheets and counting breaths. I think about the man I am, locking the door behind me, holding a ring that fits without noise. I think about the sentence I once carried like a bruise and how it faded when I stopped pressing it. I turn the key and step into a morning that belongs to no one but the people already awake. The city is quiet. The bridge holds. The river moves. My life fits. That is enough.
Follow me for more stories.